Welcome back to the Occult Rejects. Today we are joined by Frater Eleftheria, the creator of Lifting the Lamp, a show and spiritual platform dedicated to the serious seeker, magic, Kabbalah, tarot, meditation, mysticism, philosophy, hidden religion, consciousness, and the practical work of spiritual transformation. His work sits in that strange and important place where the old Western mystery tradition meets the living questions of the modern world. What is the soul? What is contact? What is revelation? What is the difference between imagination, intelligence, spirit, and the deeper architecture of consciousness? Frater Eleftheria has spent years walking the path of Western esotericism with public biographical material describing his background in angelic magic and experience in initiatory orders, including the OTO and the AA. That already gives us a lot to talk about. And we got a Thelema, maybe the Holy Guardian Angel, ceremonial discipline, spiritual authority, and the difference between reading occult books and actually being changed by occult practice. But tonight we may even go deeper than biography. We're going to get into the question of angelic intelligence itself, what it means to call, receive, test, interpret, and live with the communications that the practitioner experiences as coming from beyond the ordinary mind. His book, The Book of Heavenly Voices, brings that question to the center. The book is presented as an inspired text emerging from a decade of esoteric ritual work from 2013 to 2023, involving contact with angelic intelligences and the reception of communications from them. That raises every serious question a show like this should ask. How does a magician know when contact is real? How do you separate revelation from projection? What safeguards are necessary? What happens to the nervous system when the moral life and the sense of self when a practitioner spends years opening themselves to non-human or superhuman intelligences? So tonight we're not just talking about angels as pretty religious images. We are talking about angels as powers, voices, hierarchies, intelligences, messengers, and possibly as forces that stand at the border between mysticism, magic, psychology, and revelation. We are going to talk about lifting the lamp, Thelema, angelic currents, occult experience, spiritual danger, divine law, modern crisis, and the meaning of receiving a book that claims to speak from the heavenly side of things. And before we introduce Frater, let me introduce the other people joining us. We got Judith. What is going on, Judith? How are you? Thank you very much for making it.
Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone. Good evening. I look forward to today's discussion. And everyone, you can find me on Spreaker, YouTube, and X as Zaloon.
Thank you very much for coming on. Appreciate it. Always love you here. And Ethan, my man, Ethan Indigo, one of the most prolific writers I know. What is going on, sir?
I appreciate you guys. I always learn so much from the rejects and from the guests. Frater, I look forward to learning from you today as well. Ethan Indigo Smith on all the social media, easy to find, and new writing, hopefully coming out as frequently as Nick would like to think. And I appreciate everybody.
Thank you very much for making it, Ethan. I appreciate it. And Frater Eleftheria, if there was anything I left out in that introduction that you would like to plug, go ahead, please. But please let everybody know what's up with you and where they can find your website.
Yeah, thanks. No, that was a great introduction. Don't have anything else to add. But yeah, if people want to know where to find me, mainly on YouTube. Lifting the Lamp is the name of my YouTube channel. And yeah, go check me out there. Go give me a subscribe if you like my content. And on most of my videos these days, there'll also be a link to a mailing list in the description, because I'm trying to get a bit of independence from YouTube that way. So that's the main kind of platforms, the main forms of communication that I have. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. And I do want for the people listening, we do have a lot of because the show did kind of start off as conspiracy, really. For a lot of the conspiracy-esque type listeners, I would suggest to go check out his channel too, because he does kind of like teeter into, like, I'd say, topics that are kind of like that, and he gets into UFOs, UAPs. And I know we do have some listeners interested in that. So there's a chance to go hear from another occultist on those type of topics. And he's done work with one of our show favorites. Everybody loves Frater RC. they've done work together. So go check out that show too if you got a chance. Frater, again, thank you so much for coming on. It's really it's awesome to get you on. I was really, really happy to be able to have a discussion with you. For myself, this is like kind of like it's an excuse, I'm going to say, for the listeners, but really for myself. Could you explain what your name even means?
Yeah. So it's a magical name. So people that are involved in some kind of like esoteric order will often take a new name to represent their magical path. And so it's the Frater is just brother this or brother that. And then there's the standard form for, a male magical name. And then Eleftheria is the name that I chose as like, to represent that that aspiration. And it's not my first magical name, but I chose it based on a series of synchronicities in the end, as well as kind of messing around with Greek gematria. So basically, I wanted a new magical name, which talked about distilled down the key principle that I wanted to live for, which was freedom, and then trying to alter that to give it a bit more numerological significance. And so what I did was I took the word Eleftheria, which means freedom or liberty, and then I substituted one of the letters. I took out an upsilon, which is like a U shape, and put in a phi, which is kind of like the circle with the line through it, to try and give it a bit more of to get it closer to the idea I was trying to communicate at different levels. But then I decided that I changed my mind. I didn't really want to use that as a name anymore. So I kind of put it on ice. And then I was just randomly searching the internet, doing a deep dive on various topics. And I found a still from what is supposedly footage of the Roswell incident and some of the materials they recovered from the crash. And one of the materials is this kind of metallic bar with this alien language on it. And people actually realized it's a stylized form of Greek. And it says the word Eleftheria, but the way that it's spelt is the novel spelling that I had come up with. So when I saw that, and I haven't seen it anywhere else except there. So when I saw that, I knew, okay, the universe is telling me something. I need to accept this as my new magical name. And that's why I called myself that. And at the time, I didn't have that much of an interest in UFOs or UAP. And of course, now in the last year, it's become a huge part of the work that I do. And I've kind of been dragged into that conversation. Because I've done so much work with angels, and apparently there are people out there who think that it's angels behind the phenomenon. So, yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate you explaining that. That's awesome. Yeah, I don't think I've ever had anybody really explain their name before.
Yeah.
I guess kind of. Did anybody have any questions, Ethan or Judith?
Well, that's an amazing coincidence that you happened to see that.
That is about that.
I've heard of there being other Greek in one format or another on other UFOs or UAPs. I wonder if you've seen that. And I was going to ask too, if you, being that you've, I assume, practiced different meditations relative to making contact with different spirits, I wonder if you've also experienced or practiced the CE5 meditation or the meditation that one might contact the UAPs. And if you've noticed, if you do practice both of those, what you might notice different.
Yeah, I have indeed practiced CE5. It's, once again, something I didn't go looking for. It kind of got sent down a rabbit hole and found it. But for me, CE5, I mean, people describe it as a ritual, and there are ritualistic elements to it, like you do a meditation and stuff. but it seems to be much more like a scientific procedure at the same time. Like there's not all of the symbolic kind of psychodrama of an occult ritual. That's kind of the main difference. But CE5, up until very recently, actually, CE5 was was the only practice that I had done where something had physically appeared as a result of me doing it. And it's exactly what other people describe. It's, little lights moving along like that, and or flashing like that. Yeah. So CE5 definitely works. And the great thing about CE5 is you get to see something for yourself, and you don't have to wait for the government to release documents to show you the same thing that they've been sitting on for however many years or decades.
Very interesting. And I don't mean to sidetrack to get away from your book, but how is that different from other processes you've experienced before, utilized as your tool to make contact with other energies, so to speak?
Yeah, well, the main difference is it's a lot more ceremonial. There's a lot more kind of symbols and things that are involved. There's the incense, there's the talismans, there's the table with the various names on it, invocations, and using very symbolic language, very religious language at times. And so that's the main difference there. It's like a whole theatrical thing, doing one of those rituals.
Is that and that's for CE5?
Oh no, that's for
Yeah.
the magical side of things. That's for
Okay.
contact, like spiritual intelligences
Yeah.
from
Okay.
a grimoire or something like that. CE5 is a simple meditation and projecting an intent to meet something from the cosmos.
That's why when I think I don't know, probably because of looking at the chat, I wasn't totally paying attention. And I was just like, wow, I didn't know all that was involved in CE5. I thought it was just a meditation, like you just said right there. I was like, whoa. I didn't know Stephen Greer came up with all that. I did, I do want to ask you, because it's something that I've said on the show, and I even said to you before. I don't know exactly like how to put my finger on it, but because of even experiences that I have had with magic, I do think there is a huge overlap with the occult of magic and I guess what we're perceiving as UFOs or UAPs or aliens. Like I do think there's a connection there. In your and you think the same thing. Can you maybe give us an idea of like how you see that for you? Because it's hard for me to. I just have this feeling, and it's just hard to explain.
Yeah, well, there's some great authors out there like Diana Pasolka and Jacques
Oh.
Vallée, who basically talk about how if there's like a continuum of like people reporting experiences of things with like fairies or angels, and then the modern day UFO phenomenon, and it seems to be in some cases at least the same thing happening, but we just attach different labels to the phenomenon based on our culture. We see it through a different lens, and we have something unexplainable, and we have different ways of interpreting that in a way that makes sense to us. And so already there's this notion that like the orbs in particular are actually the same thing as what would have once been described as angels, and you can see them popping up in history. And so of course in magic, in Western esotericism, there are rituals to contact and communicate with angels, and so that's the overlap. And then to bring it home even more, since I've been down this exploring this connection myself after Matthew Brown's cryptic X post, I've found a lot of anecdotes of people who have done an occult ritual to talk to angels and actually had an orb appear as a result, or even have used something like Enochian magic. I know there's one example of Poke Runyon using Enochian magic to contact, the Galactic Council or whoever they are, and communicating with manted beings. So, there's a direct overlap there. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's probably some stuff in the UAP bucket that could be unrelated to anything spiritual or extra dimensional, could be actual aliens, but certainly some of the stuff that people have been seeing has been here for a long time and described by many different names.
Oh yeah, I can see that. Oh, thank you. I have often thought and said on the show, I had wondered if Enochian magic might be tied to that experience of UFOs or UAPs. That's interesting because you said that too, possibly. Well, angelic magic in general, and that's something that your book is about, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's the byproduct of my experiences with angels as a result of practicing angelic magic.
Yeah. Judith or Ethan, did you want to say anything or ask anything before we keep going? All right. I guess first, one more question before we get into the book, because I was going to go into the book now. How did you? This is normally the first question I ask everybody, but with your name, I had to ask that. How did you even find yourself even getting into the occult or whatever you call this ceremonial magic?
Well, I had a lot of experiences when I was young. Firstly, in the form of dreams, which, dreams, and then a past life memory when I was 13, where I actually was in pre-dynastic Egypt and practicing some kind of spirituality, following the teachings of a being known as Thoth, who I now know is someone who's actually revered in Hermeticism. So when I tried to understand that experience in particular, it led me to the Western esoteric tradition, and I started to practice magic and dabble with magic as a result of that, and then eventually decided to find an organization where I could formally learn the Western esoteric tradition and magic. And so that led me to the OTO and eventually the AA. And so I spent many years in those orders, learning, being initiated and learning about various different topics. And the rest is history.
Yeah. Thank you. How would you say? Go ahead.
How young were you when you joined these groups, though?
I was 18. When I joined the OTO, I was 18. And then it was several years before I came across the AA, actually within the OTO. And then I would have been about 27 when I joined the AA formally.
It's still young for both. Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
How was that as an experience? Do you think it helped you greatly?
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of my learning was quite self-directed, and I mean, in the AA, it's kind of designed that way. I would read the books and things from the curriculum and do the practices, and then had my superior in the AA as like a sounding board to see if I was on the right track. The OTO does a bit of that, but it's more meant to be like a community, a bit like the Freemasons or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I did some cool rituals with people in the OTO. They not as many as I would have liked or expected. But there was some learning experiences there for sure. But yeah, a lot of what I've done has been quite self-directed. Certainly the big milestones of my spiritual life.
I wonder.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Ethan.
Sorry, I wonder with the idea of self-direction, how important do you think? I mean, I understand you probably gained so much knowledge and wisdom from studying with the groups, but I wonder how much independence do you think is required for individuation and your own, maybe not group initiation, but your own one's own initiation process.
Yeah, I mean, you do require a large amount of independence for that type of path, I think. Yeah, I mean, it is helpful to have people who can be mentors or at least give you a second opinion from a place of more experience, even if you are doing it as an individual. You know, if you do things as an individual, you know, which isn't necessarily for everyone, but if you do, you know, you have to make it. You tend to make a lot more mistakes along the way, and you have to learn from those. You know, because you don't have the benefit of those who went before saying, "Oh, try it this way instead." So it's more trial and error as an individual, but you know, eventually you'll get where you're trying to get. Yeah. So does that answer your question?
Thank you. Yeah, very, very, very much so. Thank you.
Yeah.
Did you have anything you wanted to ask, Judith? Or no? Wasn't sure with the OTO or the AA or anything. Okay. Yeah, and you said you're no longer a member of either one, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, gotcha. All right. Yeah, I want to get back to the book. Unless there was anything you wanted to say about that, you know, your experience or anything about the organizations. I mean, we could just move on to your book.
No, nothing really I'd like to say. There's plenty that I could say about the OTO, but let's keep it positive.
Yeah. That's fun.
I do have a question, and it's the name of your platform. Before we get into the book, Lifting the Lamp. Why that?
Yeah, good question. So it's actually from the Bible. It's from the Gospels. It's sort of paraphrasing something that Jesus said to his disciples, which was that if you have a lamp, you shouldn't leave it under the bed or under a bushel, but you should raise it up so that everybody can see its light. And so basically, I took that and I turned it into lifting the lamp. And the reason why I chose that is because the lesson behind that that parable, if you will, is that if you have spiritual experiences and you have something to offer other people through some kind of connection to the spiritual, then you should share that with them instead of, you know, keeping it kind of cloistered away where no one else can benefit from it. And so at that point in my journey, I had about 14 years of experience and knowledge to share with people and hadn't done so. And so I made the decision that I needed to start sharing it on that channel. And that's why I chose Lifting the Lamp as the title of the channel.
I like that, man. That's pretty interesting. Nice to hear that.
Also, you could also put it together with the Hermit card too on the tarot.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was thinking too at first. That or going back to even Crowley's, that other order with the lamp. Yeah, I wasn't sure. Yeah, no, I'm glad you asked that, Judith, because I was wondering about that and totally forgot to ask.
Yeah, but those are some interesting connections as well, because that was wasn't that was the order that Crowley created when he was doing his very first Enochian experiments in Mexico, if I recall correctly, with some of the Freemasons there. Yeah.
Do you think he went there too because of the scrying came from Mexico? The piece that John D used. Supposedly came
the
volcanic,
mirror.
volcanic whatever from Mexico. That's what I heard.
Yeah, it's well, from what I understand, the obsidian mirror was never used by John D. He had two.
Oh.
He had two crystals. Yeah. In his diaries, he's got two crystals that he uses for scrying. He's got the crystal ball that sits on top of the holy table, where Edward Kelly would look into it like a palantir and see visions. And then there was another crystal that was used for scrying, which D was actually given by an angel. It was like an egg-shaped sort of crystal, and he set it in some kind of like gold or something like that, some metal, and put it on. Well, eventually he did, but he also he put it on the back of a layman, which he wore around his neck, which was one of the tools in Enochian magic, and that was a way of connecting to the angels. So those were the two crystals that were
Oh shit!
used. Yeah,
Another thing that they attribute to supposedly being theirs comes from Mexico.
Yeah. Did he use? Do you know what he used that for, or was it in his possession? Even the obsidian mirror.
Not that I know of, but it does appear in the British Library with all of his other tools, doesn't it? So, yeah.
That is interesting.
So that's a promoted misnomer.
That is bugged out.
Yeah,
I can
there
see
would be some
totally
say
possible
that,
in the community. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
there was a time when they were going over to that side of the world and bringing stuff back. So
yeah. I was gonna say, didn't it even seem like with certain occultists, Mexico was even a hot spot for a lot of them? I mean, even Manson was trying to go down there, and I do think he was an occultist. I mean,
well,
you have a lot of occultists who went to Mexico for some reason.
yeah. Well, I mean, they've got their own indigenous form of magic in the form of
Yeah, I think it was just like
loads
the
of
language stuff. Yeah, the experience.
Mm.
Yeah. Judith or Ethan, did you have anything else?
I was
No.
just going to add that in Mexico, I believe there is this whole one region in the mountains that has that whole mushroom culture that, of course, this was post Crowley, but kind of before the hippie movement that was kind of tapped into by quite a few prominent intelligence and philosophical people. I forget the names right now. Just to add that. Sorry if that's tangential.
Thank you. I did have this question. I totally forgot. Somebody had asked, what is the most effective technique or practice you gained in your benefit? I'm thinking that might have been asked when you were talking about being in like the OTO or AA.
meditation.
I was gonna
Definitely meditation.
I thought you were gonna say that too. That's
Yep.
funny.
So
Because they're
for
both
many,
huge. The AA is huge on that.
yeah, they are. And so when I was a probationer, I needed to choose was it a student or a probationer, or one or the other? I needed to choose a practice that I did regularly for a year, and get results from that. So I chose Raja Yoga, and because it combined lots of different yogas that appear, in the AA curriculum at various points on the tree. It combines, breath work, pranayama. It combines hatha yoga in the form of postures, and then meditation as well.
Oh yeah, that's like half a Liba E right there.
Yeah, exactly. So I did that, and it was incredibly rewarding. Yeah, it's
that makes sense. I could see how that was a smart choice because you are incorporating a bunch of things that are all suggested separately, in my opinion, in a lot of traditions, especially like Crowley.
Which brings me to a question. With all these techniques, yoga, meditation, even the Kabbalah, Tarot, a lot of practices within Thelema and the AA, which they do share. what would you say is the common denominator that hold all these together? Because like Nick said, these would be separate practices, separate techniques that people would take upon.
Well, if you're working with something like the AA system, and in fact the Golden Dawn system, which informed much of the AA system, you're putting it all together on the tree of life. So that's the thing. That's the tool that they use from a practical standpoint to draw it all together. And so basically, what you're trying to do, you're trying to create a sense of wholeness, I suppose, as a human being, and experience every type of transformation that you need to experience, and incorporate that on your way back up the tree of life to the supernals, back to union with God. And so that's what the point of all of this really is. It's reunification with the divine. That's the kind of the unifying theory of it, I think.
Just to add to that too, right? Yoga itself means to yoke and unite all these different forces, the individual forces with the universal energy and so forth. Just to add to that.
And the word religion comes from religare, which means reunion with God in this case. So yoga, religion, it's about reunification. Yeah.
Yeah, even if you kind of look into like even like follow like breath and practices and like the thoughts behind it and the meaning and like older religions or pantheons, like that's even like equated to like, you know, kind of like, you know, I guess unification with God in a sense. There's a lot of just even with breath and like kind of like what you're talking about, a lot of that does kind of really go back to having some sort of experience like that. That's why I think, you know, not again, getting back to Crowley, we're all not members of the OTO here, but, you know, I do think like he highly stressed that. I think he understood those practices were huge to have a magical experience. Which is why I think, like I mentioned before, I think the AA is extremely, just from my experience from looking into joining them and seeing some of their practices and like what would be expected, it seemed like you were going to have to practice that stuff.
Yeah.
Like they considered it important. You know, I don't think it's for no reason.
Yeah. Well, certainly, to do the path of initiation and self-transformation, you know, that's the sort of practices that are necessary.
Makes sense to me. Even like there was the reason why I'm saying that is like even like I did recently even stuff on breath work and certain type of yoga, like showing like the scientific effects that can be proven from like studies, and it's just like it really is pretty wild, like what you can do to your consciousness and your body through breathing and meditation. It is like whoa, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ethan.
In regards to your meditation practice, if you've stuck with one type of practice, if you've kind of integrated different ideas, and or if you vary your meditation practice with different forms of meditation, if you will, if that makes sense.
Well, I haven't departed too much from Raja Yoga. Perhaps maybe I use a different type of visualization to focus on in order to get to the dhyana. But yeah, I mean, my meditation practices remain pretty similar to that. And I've actually found that if you look at different traditions, there tends to be a lot of similarities. Like in something like the Theravadan Buddhist practices, you know, there's the same steps of look at your posture, do breathing in a certain way, and then look for the nimiters and focus and remove everything from your mind and look for this experience and this experience. So there tends to be a lot of similarities, and even in Jewish meditation, which actually has only existed for about 1,000 years, but Abraham Abulafia came up with this system of what he called the prophetic Kabbalah, which is a form of Jewish mystical meditation, where the first step is kind of writing out the God names and understanding them, and then the next state, and then you have to kind of do certain physical exercises in that, and there's certain breathing techniques in that, and then there's visualizing certain Hebrew letters or names, and then as you go deeper into that, it changes your consciousness and your connection with God. So following very much the same formula there. So while I don't know if I would strictly call my meditation practice now to be Raja Yoga, I definitely usually follow the same format, the same formula. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for that. It was a good question, Ethan. Thank you.
Great answer.
So what made you get into, I guess, a segue into the book? What made you interested in angels specifically?
Well,
I mean, I understand for a practitioner, but just maybe for other people.
Yeah, well, I think that it's actually something that I was led to from a very young age, which is kind of like mind-boggling. But yeah, I feel like I was given dreams when I was very young, like from age 11, which were almost, preparing me for to become interested in certain types of ceremonial magic, particularly Enochian. And so when the time came to explore different systems of magic, I naturally gravitated towards that. And yeah, and then just really went to town with Enochian magic in particular. In the OTO, I was known as that guy who loves Enochian.
That's cool, though. That's cool.
Yeah.
It's better than other things being known in the OTO for.
Yeah. Well, there's only so many times we can redo the 30th ether, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's the story there. And then knowledge and conversation with the holy guardian angel was naturally something that was like an essential step in the thelemic system. So so that's why I explored that.
You mind getting a little bit into for the listeners, because I've only really had one other person on, I think, really get into it, Frater RC. Can you just give people an idea of what Enochian magic is to you? I mean, I know you probably just explained it a little bit just now in so many words, but
yeah. So Enochian magic. So within the Western esoteric tradition, and ceremonial magic that is practiced there's different types of systems that you can use to do different things. So there's all the grimoires and all of that, and yeah, different types of spirits that you can contact. And so Enochian magic is one of those systems, and it came about because an Elizabethan polymath called John Dee wanted to communicate with angels. He was very well versed in Agrippa, and some of the other older occultists wanted to contact angels using scrying, which is using a crystal ball as a focus point to receive visions. And he started doing that eventually with someone called Edward Kelly. And the result of that was, according to his diaries, successful contact with angelic beings who then gave him a system of magic for deepening that contact in the form of various ritual tools, various tables that have different angelic names on them, and in the form of a language which became known as the Enochian language, which is supposedly spoken by the angels. And so that was all the material that Dee took down from his angelic communications. And then the Golden Dawn came along and really started to popularize and promote that as a magical system. They kind of innovated it in their own way, but that was the first time that people started talking about Enochian magic. They were the ones that applied that label to it. So it's a series of rituals that you can use to contact angels is the shorthand version of it.
Thank you. No, that was really well said. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great explanation. I one anecdote of them communicating with these angels is they were seeking treasure and gold. And at one point, the angel kind of mocks them, like, I have all this information here for you, and you're asking me where the gold is? Have you heard that?
Yeah. And then perhaps the real treasure was the knowledge. So yeah, but I mean, it's a quandary that any human can sympathize with. I think, like, I want to do all this occult stuff, but I've got to pay the rent, or I've got to pay the mortgage as well. So, like, how do you square that? But yeah, I've heard that story.
We've all been there, but only the rare few have been mocked by an angel for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like the Renaissance times where we can just find ourselves a patron and just study the occult. Because a lot of that happened in the past too. Or not to like, and it probably doesn't help like conspiracy theorists or people that want to say that ceremonial magicians have white privilege, because I've heard that and been told that. But some of them did also come just fortunately from affluent families and were able to spend time studying the occult. But yeah. Or you find yourself a king that wants to pay you, who's interested in this shit.
Yeah. But I mean, it does help if you come from an affluent family where you can where you can spend all your time and money exploring that stuff and not doing other things. But is that because of white privilege, or is that just because of their economic situation?
I don't know. I'm just listening. I'm just saying what's been said to me. I had plenty of podcast. Yeah,
were, rolling around in pig poo or whatever.
No, it totally threw me off, man. I was like, oh, okay, I've never actually heard this before. And I was like thinking, well, they do kind of like raise the prices of herbs. I mean, that is kind of ridiculous. I'm starting to try to rationalize this. I'm like, what the fuck? You're crazy. I don't know. All right, sorry, I forgot where I was going now with that. Oh yeah, with the angels. So what was like this 10 years like, man?
Yeah, well, it was it wasn't the whole 10 years, but it was on and off. That would be mind blowing if somebody just spent an entire 10-year period doing stuff like that. But yeah, there was certainly like the two most important periods were like the Psalmic working to attain knowledge and conversation with the holy guardian angel, and that in my case lasted roughly 6 months. Well, actually 262 days. And then the other big magical working that contributed to the book was the Jebethel ritual, which lasts 49 days of constant magical practice. And so, yeah, and then there were other little workings in between that kind of added bits of knowledge as well. But yeah, those are the main ones, and yeah, it was amazing to be able to do those. And yeah, there's nothing quite like, having a question that you've been thinking about for months and not being able to crack with your own intellect, and then just getting this answer from somewhere else, and it harmonizes everything, and it simplifies everything, and it just creates a sense of peace, and satisfaction. That's how many of the angelic sessions went, when I was asking my questions, or just asking for them to tell me whatever they want to tell me. But there were some communications that were uncomfortable as well, to do with the way that the current world is going and what its ultimate fate is, the current society, let's say. But definitely very profound experiences, and deepening my understanding of a lot of things, and the holy guardian angel working in particular, led eventually to a very beautiful state of divine union, which is what we really need to do. We need to have a direct experience of that to really be able to understand it from the inside. So that was very rewarding. And so when you work with angels like that, it fills your cup in a way where you don't feel like you've missed anything. You're fully satisfied, and it's not to do with your situation in life, but it's to do with a sense of spiritual satisfaction, and participating in the reality of God. And maybe that's why the angel was so harsh with Dee and Kelly when they asked for money, because what's money compared to that? So but we still do need to survive here.
Would you
So
say it was a divine understanding?
Yeah. So with the holy guardian angel, and I think Crowley did a good job of helping us reach this understanding. It's the same as the Atman in Hinduism, which is that little bit of God that is our deepest nature. And if we re-identify with that, we essentially become one with God again. And so knowledge and conversation kind of, it involves that union of subject and object. It's similar to samadhi. They're different experiences, but they're trying to take you to the same place. And so then when you reach that state of consciousness, you can understand divinity from the point of view of divinity, because that's what we all are. So that's the experience that we're trying to get to, right?
Before I move on to the question that somebody gave me a $2 super chat, thank you very much. Do angels get things wrong sometimes?
Not in my experience, but sometimes people can get things wrong, and sometimes we think that the angel is talking to us, and it's really just our own ego telling us what we want to hear. So there's a process of discernment that's necessary, and training ourselves to shut up our own mind and let the angel speak, let something else speak.
That's where I think the meditation comes back into play.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And when I was doing the Samic working, I would do the bornless rite, And then after every single performance of that rite, I would meditate for about 30 minutes, maybe more. And that wasn't Raja Yoga. That was like it was like just emptying the mind kind of thing. But that's the idea. Like there's the active aspect of it where you're calling forth the bornless one, and then there's the passive aspect, which is waiting and sitting in silence. And it's the second one that's the challenge.
Sitting in silence. Yeah, I just did like a solo show meditation and just silent, even like overcoming the body. All of a sudden now you feel every twitch and ache when you it's just so much to try to sitting in silence. Nice.
Monologue, is always going as well. It's very hard to shut that off, even if you're not physically speaking.
Yeah. No. It's a lot deeper than I think people think. Even for myself, even when I first started getting into this type of stuff, I had, I think even David Shoemaker, I think he even stressed, possibly, I don't know if it was in his book or at least it was on his podcast. He even said one of the first things, if you're going to get into magic, meditation. And there was a lot of people that I would say, I don't remember now, but I remember back then that I looked up to and thought had something worth saying, always included that. And believe it or not, for me, when I first got into it, I was just like, oh, that's so boring. I don't want to do that. But then something clicked and I was like, you know what? All these people are saying it though. I was like, screw it. You know what? If I don't want to do it that bad, how do I know that's not what's going to hold me back? And I forced myself to get into it, and I think it was so important. Yeah. Thank you. I think I kind of got off track a little bit, but all right. With the angel magic that I wanted to ask, did you ever do just theurgy kind of stuff?
Theurgy in
more of maybe just prayers to certain, not necessarily really I don't know how to explain it. I guess it'd be a different type of asking of what you're asking for. Yeah, for me, what I was going to get at, for me, there was a lot of times I did a lot of angel work, and it was more of just kind of prayers and devotion, or just maybe asking for help, just changing certain, I guess, aspects of myself or behaviors. And a lot of it would be meditation and prayers. And those, for me, seem to actually be, besides other more profound experiences, those seem to be the most very touching. I don't know how to explain it, but it was just very impactful. It almost felt like there was a feeling within inside of me that changed when dealing with angels a lot.
Yeah, and I've had that same feeling with Enochian angels as well. And some of my earliest experimentations with Enochian magic, I was working with different angels from the watchtowers, like the seniors or whatever. And I was using Long Milo Duquette's book, not Enochian vision magic, the one that came before that. And so, I was dealing with one of these angels at a time, and I found what you were talking about. It changes your internal state. I was dabbling with a lot of different things at the time, and some things have a bit more of an external effect. But the thing that was unique about the angels was, like you say, for me, if I invoke, invoke rather than evoke. If I invoke a spirit of Jupiter, then I feel very joyful and magnanimous and generous afterwards. And if I invoke a spirit of Mercury, I feel very analytical and focused. And so I think that's certainly a feature of it. yeah, it is good to just ask the angels to change something about yourself. You know, and it's much better to work with them for that specific kind of thing. Other spirits will, you know, will be for like getting things, and
Yeah.
but angels, you know, the whole point is self-transformation, and even working with the ethers and things like that. I mean, the knowledge that you bring back is meant to transform you. It's meant to teach you a lesson, and improve you as a person, I think.
Yeah. I think very well said. Thank you for saying all that. I'm glad you said that for people to hear that, because that's been my experience.
I have a question.
Go for
As a
it.
precautionary tale for anyone who would like to, because most people they hear Enochian magic and they want to jump into it. And what precautionary steps would you advise anyone who wants to get involved in it outside of asking for gold?
Well, yeah, I have heard people say that they find Enochian magic particularly intense, and not necessarily for beginners. But I suppose what Lon Milo Duquette would say is that there needs to be a period of attunement before people attempt it. So he's got this whole method in the book where he's got the holy table that you put the crystal on, and it's got all the letters around, and he's created this little ritual where you verbalize the name of each letter as you go around, and the whole point is to kind of make you resonate with the system of magic, so that when you come into it, it's not as jarring. So stuff like that is certainly good. I never did anything like that, but I kind of sort of gently started to explore it by, you know, doing like a simpler ritual than just, you know, opening the heavens or whatever. So yeah, definitely treat the system with respect and ease your way into it. And particularly since you're dealing with all of these tables and things like that, like it takes time to really familiarize yourself with that and work your way around it, and get your head around it. So yeah, attunement. That's the advice that I would give to people. Like, that's an important first step with that type of magic.
Would you say the initiations that you went through prior to, through the OTO and through the AA, helped you get to a certain point of attunement like that?
It wasn't so much the OTO and the AA. It was more working with the Enochian material, and you know, I created the watchtower tables from scratch, and really really focused on details that seem basic, but you know, you've kind of got to go through that preparatory stage first. And there is a theory that I've heard as well that when Dean Kelly received the tables of Lower Gaiath and wrote all of those down, that was meant to be a process of attunement for them, for the Enochian system. So those types of things, more so than the initiations of the OTO or the AA, are things that I think prepared me. Although I've heard that the Golden Dawn initiations incorporate some Enochian stuff in them, like the
Thank you.
the pyramids and everything. Yeah.
Thank you for saying that, because some people want to jump in, as we are in a society of instant gratification and instant doing, that people don't realize there are tables that they have to put together, and there are materials that they have to gather first before taking on this great feat, especially if you're doing it by yourself. But I'm not going to get into that part.
Yeah, definitely. And there does seem to be something that is just very different to us vibrationally, in terms of the way that the angels are. And yeah, so there's a process there of being able to uh, to be able to have that connection without it feeling um, too intense or something like that. Yeah, but yeah, certainly not what people want to hear in the age of instant gratification.
Mm. I would even say with the Nokia magic, that's not even. I mean, I wouldn't even consider that beginner magic. I'd be like, ask me in another 5 years. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's just even something that it's like if you get into that, I would hope you'd have a whole bunch of other practice with other stuff prior. I don't even think I would even like. I never got into Enoki and stuff. I was very interested in it, but I don't even. I think even if I got in that now, I'd be fucking lost. Totally honest.
Yeah.
I wonder to the idea of this transformative process and the idea of attunement. You mentioned I deduced you mentioned or kind of I felt like you had an affinity for numerology when you mentioned it, and you also described how you have phi in your name, which I mean I presume you might have an affinity with sacred geometry too. I wonder if you could just explore, maybe how you integrated that in your name and just the general ideas of numerology and geometry that you might utilize.
Yeah. So certainly, maybe not numerology in the way it's used in fortune telling, but certainly gematria is something that I use quite a bit. So with the name, I was trying to alter Eleftheria in order to reach a solar number, which was my understanding of what I was doing. But it might freak some people out. But I was trying to reach the number 666 as the number of the sun. And I was a Thelemite at the time, so I considered that number to be very important for the path of initiation and becoming one with God and all of that. And so Eleftheria with a phi instead of a upsilon will get you to 665. And that's part of the reason why I sort of put it to one side, because I couldn't find a way of changing the spelling to get the outcome that I wanted, which in hindsight I'm now happy about, because since my religious and spiritual beliefs have changed, I don't want to be associated with that number. I just think that there's a lot of baggage there with negative connotations. So yeah, but my name in the OTO when I was like a 4th or 5th degree was Eleftheria Alpha. So so that was me using numerology to alter a name to get a certain result. And yeah, and then when I left the OTO, I dropped the A from the end, the alpha from the end. So yeah, so you can certainly alter words to have an added layer of meaning with numerology, and that's something that I do in my spiritual path, and I look for the hidden meanings and connections between words with gematria for sure as well.
Nice. You get into gematria? I mean, I would assume. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. I mean, it's kind of a silly question. What is your opinion on gematria? Like, do you think it's I know it's like sometimes some people kind of blow it off and actually don't think it's really all that within the occult, but I think sometimes when it comes to certain occultists, and maybe it's not gematria, but I do think shit's ciphered, and I do think gematria would normally, kind of be some sort of way of decoding it. I think gematria is
Yeah.
highly important when it comes to the occult. Well, is that your
Yeah.
opinion?
Yeah, I think so too. And I think it's like any other form of divination. It's like numerology or astrology, things fall a certain way in apparently coincidental way, and then you look into it and you find these little synchronicities, and those are important, if for no other reason than because we think that they're important, and that tells us something. And I've certainly found in other instances that gematria has told me things which have some truth behind them. So, for example, the name that my holy guardian angel gave me, its name, which I won't reveal, it gave me this name, which has an established gematria value. And then years later, when I used Agrippa's technique for finding my natal angel, by attributing Hebrew letters to different degrees of different placements, I found that the name that I got from that had the same gematria as my holy guardian angel. So that was just like mind blowing when that happened. That was
Yo, that's bugged out.
yeah. So
Oh, shit.
yeah, so there's definitely something to it, I think.
Yeah, no, that would really. I'm sold on that. That is cool as shit, man. That's a cool experience. Good for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm. What else? Did Ethan or Judith? Did you have anything that you wanted to add or ask? No.
No, right now.
Okay. All right. Oh, somebody did ask. Somebody did ask in the chat. I keep forgetting. I'm so sorry. Hope they're still around. Very good question too, because I was like, how did I not think of asking this? You just said it, and I just let it go by. I don't know if you talk about it, but like, didn't you say something about the angels telling you about the future, or something? Or you had some experiences telling you about the future? Somebody wanted to know what they said.
Yeah, that was Banksia. I saw that coming up before. Yeah.
Yeah.
They told me, well, they didn't say anything like on this date this big cataclysm is going to happen or anything like that. But what they did say was there was a period in the future which was going to be like fire spreading through the world, whether literally or figuratively, and purging a lot of the old structures that were no longer, where things were not going right for humanity, and that people would need to endure that period of upheaval, and the way to do that was by connecting back to the divine, by connecting back to their spiritual nature, which can endure all things. And there was a lot of stuff about morality and values and virtues being needed to reestablish justice when the world seems to be going topsy-turvy. And yeah, there were some specific predictions about a brighter future for the world, and eventually a return of the golden age. But a lot of that is not set in stone. It comes down to the choices that we make. And so there can still be multiple different outcomes. But if we choose to reconnect with the divine, then the future looks very bright. But there is a challenging period that we need to move through before we can reach that, which is consistent with what other prophets have said. I mean, like other, like the Old Testament prophets, besides like what we would be familiar with like Jesus, and the kind of Olivet discourse and all of that, or even someone like Crowley, with talking about the fire, the force and fire coming through, and the old world being destroyed. But perhaps he had a different, perhaps was going in a different direction with all of that. But yeah, those are the kind of, in broad strokes, the predictions of the future, if you can call them those, that the angels gave me.
In a Thelemic context, would you consider that the bringing of the new aeon?
It is a similar idea to the bringing of the new aeon, but the image of the future aeon that the angels gave me, it doesn't really track with the age of, well, in certain respects it tracks with the aeon of Horus, in that it represents the spiritual independence of humanity, but in other ways it doesn't. It's not really a time of force and fire and for forever. There's a point at which there's peace afterwards, and then the message that I was given, it was not about getting rid of Christianity altogether. It was more about the future development of our understanding of the divine and of God in a new direction, which respected the past and built upon the past, rather than completely destroying it. So in some senses, there were some similarities with the new aeon as Crowley would have envisioned it, but at the same time, it's different and probably more consistent with the millennial age that's described in the Christian kind of or the Jewish account of what the future age looks like. Peace among the nations, eventually, although we're a long way off from that right now. Oh,
You're muted.
Can you hear me now? All right. Yeah. No, there was a few things that you had said that, just like Judith was saying, sounded very Thelemic to me. I was like, the beginning part did. I was like, that almost kind of sounds like the Aeon of Horus, but like kind of like in a nicer package.
Well, there's similarities. Yeah,
that's cool. Well, it sounds nice. Sounds promising.
Yeah. Yeah, a bit of hope in a world where there's so much fear. I don't want to say the actual word because of YouTube. Fear corn about we're all going to die in these horrible ways, and here's all the different cataclysms that can completely destroy us and take us into a Mad Max future. And it's a different vision of the future to the one that we've been force fed.
Mad Max future.
Yeah.
Oh shit. When it comes to your book, if people were to go out and get it, what's one thing you'd hope that they take from that book?
I mean, it does cover a lot of things that other traditions have spoken about, that the need to find the divine within. You can find that in the Upanishads, or you can find that in other esoteric paths. And yeah, but I guess the big thing that the Book of Heavenly Voices, or the Voces Caelesti, brings to us is understanding how we take a connection with God, the divine, reconnecting with that, and then and then transform the world in the way that it needs to be transformed. Not necessarily, not necessarily going out and imposing a vision on the rest of the world, but just how do we start to reorganize ourselves, from at the ground level, so that society starts to mirror the divine principles, and so that we are in harmony with the will of the divine, and sort of some practical information about how we can do that, and also if there's friction with the established order, how can we stand our ground without getting lost in conflict and negativity and anger and all of that sort of thing. How can we recognize the need to change the way that things are done now, in a way where we remain mindful, and we are ultimately recognizing that true freedom and true liberation comes from the divine, and whatever we do in the world needs to be a tool for realizing that for as many people as possible. So that's kind of the unique perspective that the Voces Caelesti brings. Because a lot of esoteric traditions will only focus on your own personal enlightenment and sort of treat the world like it doesn't matter. But this tries to incorporate a sense of social awareness, or awareness of the need to pay attention to the way society is, and how it might need to change, and how it might not, how it might be reproducing wickedness in people in the way that it's currently set up. And these kind of these structures which are related to the demiurge in Gnostic thought, but really are our own creation rather than some evil craftsman demigod. And so those are some of the themes running through it, that I think are very unique, and something that's much needed in today's discourse.
Thank you. That's great. That was a lot. Thank you.
It's always hard because there's so many ideas in there, and it's always hard to kind of focus on one thing.
Yeah.
There's so much information in it, and everything connects to everything else. So, yeah. But this is what the book looks like, and you can get it on Amazon.
It's a big book.
If you look for Voces Caelesti, VOCESCAELESTI, it'll be on there. And if you choose the Amazon that your country is in, you won't get ridiculous shipping costs. It's available in paperback everywhere and hardcover in certain places, but not all for some reason. But if you want to check it out, then that's the details.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
I do have a question. Is this book your answer to your encounter with the angels?
Well, it's what they told me when I it's me recording the things that they communicated with me when I contacted them in these rituals. And the reason why there's such a theme of like what's happening in the world and things that are going wrong in the world, and there's going to be, things are going to change dramatically, and you need to be ready. Like a big part of the reason for that is because one of the core workings that I did to get these communications was the Jebethol ritual, which is an Enochian magical ritual, and it's all about restoring spiritual knowledge that was lost, and doing so for the express purpose of preparing for the end. And that's what the angels said to Dee and Kelly. And this was the ritual to get that specific type of knowledge. And I was actually the first person who has ever done that ritual, because the 49th call was never given, and I had to develop a way of receiving the 49th call before I could complete the ritual. But yeah, so so it's my communications with the angels. Some of it is a result of specific questions that I ask them. Some of it is just things that they tell me that I need to know. And it is colored by the nature of the workings that I did. And so, for example, the knowledge and conversation related communications are all about understanding the divine and what the experience of union with the divine is like. So that's the sort of things that are recorded in the book.
I would like you to expand, because it could have so many meanings when you said the end.
Yeah, well, I can understand, because people might hear that and think of like the fundamentalist Christian idea of the end, which is that Jesus comes down on a cloud and destroys the earth with fire, and then most people go to hell, and then the righteous are resurrected and get to live with Jesus in heaven. And that's not what this is about. It's about the ending of an age. There are certain periods in human history where the old way of doing things comes to a dramatic end, but then something new comes along, and that is the thing which renews the human species and gives us a new experience for a new time. And so I think that Dee and Kelly probably understood it from a very literal Christian perspective. But if you look at the meaning of the word, the phrase "end of the world" in the original Greek, where Jesus uses it on the Mount of Olives, it's actually talking about the end of the age. So I would argue that the correct understanding, whether Dee and Kelly were aware of it or not, is the ending of one age and the beginning of another. So yeah, I mean, some dramatic things can happen in those times, but it's not fire and brimstone and everybody dies because the Christian fundamentalists in the United States tried to start World War III to bring about their idea of the end. It's not that. It's the end of an age.
Thank you so much for clearing that up.
Yeah, no, of course. It's much closer to describing what Eckhart Tolle would or Dolores Cannon would talk about in terms of the new Earth arriving, and what needs to end before that can come about.
I'm intrigued by the symbol on your cover. Is it like an ankh with a dual pronged base? Could you break that down?
So yeah, this is a symbol that I received in one of the communications from the Jebaphil ritual, and it's actually the symbol of humanity. And so that is the thing that defines the coming age, is that it's about humanity and understanding that we are in a certain sense a manifestation of divinity, and that is our true nature. And when we reclaim that, we can reach our full potential. And Jesus was meant to be like a prototype of that and was supposed to show the way back. But then, Nicene Christianity came along and suppressed all of the Gnostic wisdom and all of that, and it turned into something that was to do with vicarious atonement instead, and just following an external savior. But we're going to come to an understanding of what the true meaning of that master coming was, and live it ourselves. And so our new understanding of the divine will be linked to the divine within, and we will honor the divine by doing good to one another, because we're able to see the divine much more within each other, and we pay attention to the world that we live in rather than the hereafter, because we understand that the divine is here. So that's that's kind of like the big central message of the book, and so that's why that symbol is on the front.
Very cool.
Thank you. That was a good question, Ethan. I would have thought of asking that. You do have a don't you kind of have like a design, like a sigil or a logo for yourself? Is there anything involved in that?
Oh, the lifting the lamp symbol. Yeah, that was designed as a sigil. Yeah, just because I didn't want any old symbol. I wanted a symbol that was created with a magical intent. But yeah, there's nothing deeper to it than that for that symbol. It wasn't the result of like a angelic working or anything else. It was just it was just basic sigil magic.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
Mm.
Awesome. Cool. No, it's nice. I like it. Was there anything that represented anything to do with like an eclipse, so to say, in that sigil?
In the sigil, no, not specifically. No, it's
Because
more.
I noticed on your website you do have an eclipse crescent on your website. For some reason, maybe I got confused. Yeah.
No, that's more for aesthetic purposes.
Okay. Yeah. No, but there was like something else that I thought maybe it was like a copy of it, so that's why I asked. Yeah, from looking at your website. Gotcha.
But I mean, there were some eclipses that happened around the when I did my Jebethal ritual. I timed it at a point that was in the middle of a tetrad of lunar eclipses.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's nice.
So yeah, so that's I do have some kind of a eclipses have been part of my journey at various points, but not like a big part. Yeah.
Gotcha. Oh. I said, did you ever do you think there was any benefits when you did that one, like you said right there, like timing it to the eclipses?
Well, yeah, I think I had originally planned, like I'd been studying this ritual, the Jebethal ritual, since about 2009, and before Aaron Leach and his fantastic research on the topic, it was referred to as the Enochian apocalypse working. So I'd been researching it for a few years by 2014, and I had planned to do it in 2020 originally, but then Aaron Leach's book, Essential Enochian Grimoire, came out and helped put a lot of pieces into place that I'd been thinking about, which I hadn't expected to understand so soon. And I also became aware of this tetrad that was happening, and how there was sort of expectations among people that this was like a sign of the end times. So I thought that it was a magically powerful time to do the ritual for that reason. And yeah, so as a result of I guess being inspired by Leach's work and the magical timing, I decided that was the time to do it.
Cool.
Do you study astrology particularly?
I'm familiar with astrology.
I wonder.
Yeah, the basics of it, but I don't study it seriously.
Okay. I wonder, maybe just for everyone, this might be off topic. I hope not too much, but relative to your idea of this transition into a more enlightened kind of age, if you will. Forgive me for paraphrasing off base, but I wonder if you've heard about this bar bolt basket. I ask because it has 4 different planets all at 4 degrees and the moon at 4 degrees too, coming up this summer. It reminds me of, as you described, the tetrad of eclipses.
Yeah, I've not heard of that one, but yeah, there have been some interesting things happening astrologically in the last few months
Oh, yeah.
with Pluto and everything else. Yeah.
Even Aries had a wild time. There's a whole bunch of alignments.
Mm.
Awesome. Do you guys have any other questions? Yeah, we could probably wrap it up here. All right. Okay. Yeah, that was a blast, man. I really enjoyed that conversation. There's so many other things. I'll be totally honest with you. I hardly even got. I did have some questions. I don't even think I really got to any of them. But I thought that was a great discussion and very detailed answers, and I appreciate that for real. So
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I've enjoyed our little chat here.
yeah. There's just so many things I know that, like, even just from there was stuff I wanted to get into that I just seen you even cover on your own channel that I find is interesting. But just, I think we could be here all night at that point. But yeah, before I let you plug whatever you got, well, Judith, the Loon, please let everybody know where they can find your stuff.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for sharing and indulging us in this conversation, Frater. Everyone else, you can find me on Spreaker, YouTube, and X as the Loon. Ethan, also, it's a pleasure, always a pleasure being on with Ethan as well. And the chat, you guys rocked it tonight.
Thank you very much, Judith. I really appreciate you making it. Ethan, my man, what is going on, sir?
Yeah, great to be here with you guys as always. Thank you so much, Frater, for the information and, more importantly, the inspiration. That was a wonderful presentation and discussion. So Ethan Indigo Smith on all the social media. I appreciate any communication that people want to reach out. So again, thank you all.
Thank you, Ethan. Appreciate you making it. And Frater, again, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you talking about your experiences, especially with angel magic. I guess myself, whichever way I did it in my own way, I thoroughly enjoyed it. So it's nice hearing other people's takes on it. And their experience with Enochian magic, for sure. It's something I don't know anything about. Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that to the show and for the listeners. Please let everybody know where they can find all your stuff. Promote whatever, your book, your podcast.
Yeah, sure. And first of all, thanks again for having me on. And it's been a fantastic discussion, and it's always good to talk to other occultists as well. And in terms of my own work, again, the Voces Caelesti, the Book of Heavenly Voices, is available on Amazon. And I also am still, of course, doing my YouTube channel, Lifting the Lamp, where I talk about a number of different occult topics. So you can find that on YouTube mainly. And so please go and subscribe to me over there. But please make sure you hit the notification bell, because otherwise YouTube will not even tell you of my future videos. And please do join my mailing list as well, to give me a bit more autonomy over who gets to see my work without an algorithm deciding for me. So there will be a link in, my next, or my last YouTube video, which will have the mailing list there. So please join the mailing list over there as well.
Very nice. Thank you. Yeah, definitely hit that notify button. I'll even say I have people who are like, oh, I had the notify on YouTube, didn't even tell me. YouTube sucks with sending out subscribers any information. Yeah, so definitely I suggest go definitely hit that notification button. Again, thank you so much for coming on. Again, that was a great discussion. People in the chat seem to really like it. Thank you, Frater RC. Definitely appreciate you, sir. as always. And yeah, well, hopefully maybe we'll get you on in the future and we'll talk about some more stuff. If you
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to do that. I
cool.
think you've probably got a lot more questions you want to ask me.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, even so many more about the book, really, and other things. But yeah, we'll make sure that happens in the future. And yeah, that's the end of another Occult Rejects. Until the next one, everybody be well. Later.